Just take a second with me, though, and take a deep breath, and let's concentrate really hard on becoming an instrument of God's peace here today. I've been asked, I'm Dagmar McCarran, first of all, I've been asked to give my immigration story. America has always been a land of immigrants, people looking for religious freedoms and a better life. As we begin this Thanksgiving holiday week, we naturally think about the Pilgrims, our first immigrants. Now, maybe we think about Thanksgiving turkey and pie first, but we do get around to thinking about the Pilgrims. I represent not the original immigrants, but the immigrants of the 1940s. As you can see, I'm in my costume of the German folklore of that time. We were called Flüchtlinge then, which means refugees. It conjures up words like seeking safety, escape, flight, and on the run. The summer of 1944, the war had not yet found the little farming village of Liegetrochen, Ostpreußen. The people still farmed their land, they schooled their children, and the pastor from Goldup came every week to hold evangelische services. It was the Gemeinschaft of the Glauber. That means the community of the believers. Religion was important, God was important. They met every Sunday on the fields of Schachner's farm, and when the weather was too cold, too wet, or too snowy, they all jammed into the farmhouse. By October 20th, 1944, the front crossed into Ostpreußen. Fear rang out as the first soldiers were seen coming across the border, just 10 kilometers away. My uncle, who was just 16 at the time, rode his bicycle frantically up the country roads to warn the 31 families that were living there, to tell them that the soldiers had began their march. The word went out that the town was to gather in the square at 10 p.m. that night. Imagine the panic as families tried to decide what to bring, what to leave. Most had only small hay wagons on which to carry their worldly belongings, their small children, even their elderly parents. By 11 p.m. that night, the last villager had arrived. The Burgermeister, who was the mayor of the town, led them then into the night. It was the flight, the Flucht had begun. They were now what we call Flüchtlinge, the refugees, who had left behind homes, possessions, community, and security. A whole culture, a language, a history, and a nationality was about to disappear. It took the group several days to travel to Lochstein, where the people quartered in homes, on the streets, in barns, and in schools. The people of Liegetrochen became reliant on the goodness of other people to help them through the uncertain times ahead. Die zweite Flucht, which means the second flight. By January 24th, 1945, the front was again at the door of the poor people of Liegetrochen. The group splintered and traveled by foot, by trucks, and by trains. The race was on to get to Danzig in hopes of finding a ship that would take them to freedom. Oil freighters, cruise ships, motorboats, all were used to transport women and children. Imagine the anguish that my mother felt as she was told that the ship Gustloff could not accommodate her. It was full. She had to look on as her cousins all were on board and she was left behind. We later learned that that ship was torpedoed and all 9,000 perished. Die dritte Flucht, the third flight. By war's end, the villagers of Liegetrochen had spread far and wide, across to Denmark, to Canada, to Germany, to England, and yes, to America. Our family was beautifully blessed by the Lutheran World Relief Program that sponsored us to come to the United States. They put us together with a little church in Dow's, Iowa, called the First Lutheran Church, where we were welcomed by very warm, loving people. I remember the weeks prior to the immigration. I remember sitting down with my father, with my brothers and sister, and learning that we would be in a new place, a new land, where we would not know the language, My father said, they will not understand you and you will not understand them. A frightening thought for a small child. You also watched your possession leaving the house one by one as they were given away to other people. You can't take them with you. Did you look at your little pink slips of paper? Those of you that filled these out last week and decided what 2 things could you take with you if you suddenly had to leave your homeland? That was the position that we were put in. In particular, the dollhouse that my twin sister and I had gotten that Christmas. We watched as our father took it across the fields one day as we were coming home from school. Overwhelmed with the trauma of it all, we went running after him to say, where are you going with our dollhouse? And Dad said, Schatzo, es ist zu klein. Ihr seid zu klein, es ist zu groß. Which means it's simply just too big to take with us. And the thought of that, the image of that can't go. What else can't go? What else can I not take with me? The things that my parents thought most important to take with them were pictures and addresses. Trying to stay together, remembering their family, who they were, remembering their friends, hoping to join up with them again after the war. That was paramount to us all and continues to be. But I remember the most, the particularly warm, welcoming feelings that we got from the First Lutheran Church of Dow's Island. They gave us a home, helped us to learn English, gave us food, clothing, and our first Christmas in America. We grew and thrived as a family, we became college educated, and we served our country in the military. Many of us in the Navy and in the Air Force. We were nurses, we were physical therapists, we were engineers, we were computer technologists. And so now as you prepare for your Thanksgiving this week and for Christmas in the weeks to come, know that immigrants like me, we feel so very blessed to have been brought here, to have had the privilege of being raised in a free society, and that we don't take it for granted. We thank God and every one of you whose hearts always go out and give to people like us. Thank you so very much.